Did you know that the expression more pain, more gain captures a fundamental Kabbalistic idea? In this explainer, we will focus on a fundamental process through which everything around us develops. Please note that all the ideas we will introduce are fully explained with source material in my latest book, Shomer Emunim, The Introduction to Kabbalah. Click on the link in the description below for details about my book. In addition to the Kabbalists describing the creation process using tzimtzum, they also use an alternative descriptive language for the same creation process that highlights different aspects of the overall process. They refer to a starting point for the creation process of every entity in existence as being a state of relative instability, a chaotic state referred to as Tohu. This instability is prone to undergo breakdown, referred to as Shevirat HaKeilim, the breaking of the vessels, forming shattered Tohu. The shattered Tohu then becomes the basic components, the sum of the parts of a subsequent production process. A final stage is where the shattered Tohu is organized and integrated to form a created entity, creating a whole from the sum of the parts. And this process is called Tikun, rectification. While this overall process is a description of the way in which the worlds are created, it also applies to every human act of creation in this physical world. Such acts typically involve taking some kind of raw materials that are to be refined in a desired production process and can therefore be viewed as Tohu relative to the desired result, which would be viewed as Tikun. For example, when making vegetable soup, the raw vegetables can be viewed as the Tohu relative to the desired end result of the soup. The raw material is broken down into its constituent parts, the Shevirat HaKeilim, that form the shattered pieces of Tohu. The vegetables undergo this breakdown, Shevirat HaKeilim, by being cut up into small pieces. The broken down material then forms the basic components from which the desired result can now be constructed through a Tikun process. The cut up vegetables undergo Tikun, a reconfiguration and reorganization by being mixed together, seasoned and boiled in water to produce the desired result, the soup. This also equally applies to more refined physical processes, such as the development of human conceptual thought. A raw, undeveloped flash of an idea, Tohu, is analyzed and broken down into its conceptual elements, Shevirat HaKeilim. These conceptual elements are then reconfigured and reorganized, a process of Tikun, creating a larger perspective of the subject matter under review. In all these processes, the desired result produced through Tikun is optimized by a more efficient and refined Shevirat HaKeilim stage that precedes it. This is the concept of Shevirat HaKeilim breakdown, which is a necessary part of the creation and growth process that has been fundamentally built into the very fabric of creation. The process of Tohu, Shevirat HaKeilim, and Tikun is a relative process. Tohu is a relative starting point. In order to advance and improve the Tohu, it must first be destabilized through a relative Shevirat HaKeilim breakdown process, and will then be reorganized through a relative Tikun process to produce the final result. This can perhaps be best understood with an analogy relating to climbing a ladder. After reaching a relative level, a particular rung on the ladder, with 2 feet firmly placed on that rung, the only way to ascend, to go up the ladder, is to first remove 1 foot from that rung, which destabilizes the position on that rung. This returns the climber to the level reached just before fully reaching that rung in the first place. There's only 1 foot on that rung now. It is only after the act of destabilization by removing the foot that it is now possible to use that foot to reach for the higher rung and to get to the higher level, and then bring the other foot up as well. There is always at least some level of challenge, breakdown, or difficulty required to enable forward advancement, and it is the level of challenge that impacts on the resulting quality of the end result. This is as our sages state, according to the pain is the reward, or in modern terminology, more pain, more gain. This applies to every aspect of our lives. We move into a new situation that disorientates us, Tohu, and we experience anxiety, difficulty, and maybe breakdown resulting from it, Shevirat HaKeilim. We then reorganize ourselves to better deal with it, Tikun, and overcome the challenge. It is just like planting a seed in the ground. The seed decomposes and rots, undergoing complete breakdown. It then reorganizes with an input of nutrients from the soil and grows into a wonderful plant. The Kabbalists understand this cyclical process as being fundamental to our existence. The first part of the process, the Tohu, is synonymous with the Sefirot. It is the separation between the Sefirot that inherently makes them unstable. They then undergo breakdown, a reduction, to form the raw components of the subsequent production process. The breakdown of the Tohu, the Sefirot, is a reduction process to create the underlying components of all existence. However, the reduction process is only the first part of the story. If we only understand how reduction works, how the Sefirot work, then the only thing that we know about are the basic elements of creation. If we only understand what everything is reduced to and made of, the Tohu, the Sefirot, we have a very incomplete understanding of the world around us and of the larger universe. To complete the picture, the Kabbalists introduce us to the concept of Tikun, which will be focused on in the next explainer, where the Tikun is synonymous with the creation of what are called Partzufim and the concept of emergence. Before you go, don't forget, click on the link in the description below for details about Shomer Emunim, the Introduction to Kabbalah, which contains comprehensive explanations and sources for everything in this explainer series. So, thank you for listening and looking forward to seeing you in explainer number 8.